Hello and welcome, Francis.
Hi Cassandra, and thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Francis, how long have you been president and why did you take on this position?
Well, it's been a very short stint so far. I was elected at our last AGM, which was held in July last year. I took on the role after becoming involved in the committee here at SDM over the last 12 months or so. We were in a situation where the club was almost facing closure, just for lack of interest. So it was time to step up and get things alive again. And so far, we're back on track, which is a really positive thing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, there are young Slovenians out there. It's just about knocking on their door and bringing them out of the woodwork, and you wouldn't believe they're actually quite happy to come up and have a good time, which is great.
Previous to this position, have you been involved with the Slovenian community either by attending functions or through participation?
Oh yes, it goes way back. My dad would drag us up here, myself and my younger brother and sister. We had to attend Slovenian school up here every Sunday. Weren't very happy about it, of course. All other children at my school didn't have to go to Slovenian school, but yes, we did. Anyhow, you know, look, after, you know, looking back on it and in hindsight, I'm really glad that Dad pushed us into it because I can speak the language to a good conversational level. I learnt a lot of folk dancing. I got to travel around Australia doing folk dancing with the group here. I was also involved with Glasniki at the Slovenian Cultural and Religious Centre in Kew, and we'd go to Mass every week in Kew. And yeah, I think I had a big break from the Slovenianness, if you can call it that, after, you know, sort of my teenage years. You know, went off, studied, went around the world and whatever else, and didn't really touch anything Slovenian. And then I had children a few years ago and had that touch of, you know, feeling of nostalgia and wanted to sort of, you know, get back to my roots, and thought, you know, I should join that club that I used to get dragged up to all those years ago. And that's when I found out that it wasn't even open. So yeah, so the quest began.
Francis, why are you proud of your Slovenian heritage?
Well, I think that family is just such an important part of life, a part of everyone's life, and knowing where you came from and knowing about that heritage is just critical, and especially when it is overseas and it's not around us every day. And to go back to Slovenia, which I did a couple of years ago for the third time, was just such an amazing experience and just really wonderful to share with my children. And I know that there are a lot of other second generation Australian Slovenians that really want their children to become enthused and learn about the culture and the heritage, so that we can carry it on. We don't want, as a collective, we don't want to lose it. It's too important.
You've mentioned your dad's Slovenian. Are both your parents Slovenian?
Yes. My dad is from Notranska, near Postojna, and my mum came from a little village called Polenšak, and that's near Ptuj. Okay. So they're both of Slovenian heritage. My mum grew up here in Australia. They came out when she was young. And my dad came out to Australia when he was 21 years old. So, look, my mother passed away many years ago, but my father, spent the majority of his life here in Australia, and would calls this his home now.
How much influence have they had on your involvement with the Slovenian community?
My father had a massive influence. With my mother, it's hard to remember. Although I do recall my mother falling off the swings here once, and an ambulance had to come and help her. That's another story. Sorry, I digress. My father had a massive influence. He spoke Slovenian to us at home. I recall going to kindergarten, and it was almost as though English was my second language. The kindergarten teacher asked, you know, just held up a picture of a ladder and asked the class who it was, and I put my hand up and said, Leutra, you know. My dad keeps bringing up that awful story. But he really encouraged, if to use want of a better word, encouraged us to learn the language. It was, you know, Slovenian school up here at the club. It was Slovenian school for high school. It was getting involved, you know, in the cultural activities. And as I said, at the time, it was very, very, you know, something I didn't really enjoy. I enjoyed the company and the social aspect, but the actual doing of the activities, not that much enjoyment. But gosh, I am so glad I did it. You know, it pays off in the end. It really does. And he is to thank for that. He really, he's really good at speaking Slovenian. I go to him still now and check on how to pronounce a certain word, and he will certainly tell me. And he's a really, really good help to me. And he gets, unfortunately, he gets lumped with more homework now that I'm involved in Slovenian activities.
You're stretching him too.
That's right. Yes, he's got to be involved too.
Are there any other people that influenced you?
My great auntie, who was she wasn't related by blood, but she was my father's uncle's wife, and my great uncle died very tragically on Christmas Eve. He was Christmas Day, would you believe? They'd been to church at Kew, and he was involved in a car accident. He was the only one that died, and so she was widowed for a long period of time. She never remarried, and when my mother died, she came and looked after us. You know, she spent many, many times looking after us as children so my dad could go to work. And so we always conversed in Slovenian, you know, and then when I became an adult, we still kept in contact. She was like my second mum, you know, and we had so much fun together. I'd go and visit her, and it was all in Slovenian. So that was just to keep up my language skills. That was a fantastic influence. You know, unfortunately I'm tone deaf, but she did try to teach me some Slovenian songs when I was a little kid, and I still remember those songs. So yeah, she was a fantastic influence. Wonderful.
If we go back to the beginning of the Slovenian Association Melbourne, it was established in 1954, and it's the oldest Slovenian club in Australia. What was the reason for establishing the club back then?
Do you know, it was such an important thing back then. I know that one of our core objectives is to help, you know, especially at that time, helping the young Slovenian immigrants that came out and were settled here in Australia, giving them that social and cultural link, that bond where they could all come together and support each other. It was a really important thing. I know that, like, Pater Basili, who was, you know, one of the priests out here in Kew, God rest his soul, he was actually heavily involved in the committee. You know, he saw it as a very important social and cultural thing too, where they needed the support. Look, these days, that same need isn't here, you know, and that's why the clubs have had to refocus and redefine why we're here. Of course, we actually do still look after, like, the social needs of, say, our foundation members. I think it's really important for them. As you go through the stages in your life, yes, you know, you've come out here as an immigrant, you need that social support. But as people get older too, there's a different need happens, I think, you know, when you sort of get to your autumn years. And so we still see that as a big focus. But now, of course, there's had to be the re-engineering of why we're here.
Has the association been successful in integrating the first generation Slovenian immigrants into the Australian society?
Well, you know, you only have to look at our foundation members to see, you know, how successful they've become, and they all integrated so well. They created their own businesses, they got jobs, they bought houses. I'm sure you're probably aware that per capita here in Australia, this is actually through the Australian Bureau of Statistics. I was rung up by the Herald Sun for an interview about this. But Slovenians per capita, we have the highest percentage of home ownership here in Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
So how's that, you know? And I was quite taken aback myself, you know, and I think the reporter that spoke to me was sort of a bit, you know, thought, well, there you go, you know, Slovenians are on top for that one. And it was, it showed to me that just how hard they worked. You know, it's not easy. cannot imagine how hard it must have been to come to a country so far away. Like,
and
no language, nothing, you know. Just the clothes on their back, and to start afresh and to be successful and, you know, raise families and do all the things that, you know, we do as humans, that we aspire to do, they've done. And, you know, I am so proud of them. And building this club, you know, from scratch, I just couldn't start to think how difficult that would be.
And it's a huge club out here. There's a playground and there's a hunter's lodge and
bowling alley, a youth club, everything's here. They covered it.
And it's not close to Melbourne, so it would have taken a big effort.
Indeed. Look, they did start with a smaller club in Carlton.
Okay.
But because of the size of it, it soon sort of outgrew, you know, the size. They needed something bigger. So they chose this beautiful hill out in Research on the outskirts of Eltham. It reminded them of home.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What kind of activities were held at the association in the early years of its establishment?
Well, I wasn't here.
What room is it?
I wasn't around, but look, that, you know, that there was the dances were a big thing. And the sporting side of it was also quite big. So there was, of course, the bowling, that there was inter-club competitions too. Then there was snooker, and there was, you know, shooting with the hunters. They were big things. Youth were also involved too, with different sporting activities. So the sporting side was really big. Then they've done numerous art exhibitions and craft exhibitions, and, you know, showing the beautiful Slovenian traditional handiworks, which I'm not very crafty. I wouldn't be able to do, but I can certainly admire them. Yeah. So that was also, you know, a big thing. And look, there's probably 1,000 other things, but I'm just trying to. I've seen many videos and many, you know, read through many books, but those things come to mind. But yeah, I think lots of happy times, lots of social occasions, getting together, having fun. I've got photos of my dad and some of his friends in the 70s, and they're down the back there, and they've got the pig on the spit. You know, it was very simple. Yeah. Didn't need, you know, any flashy tables and chairs or anything like that. Just lots of fun. And they also went out on a lot of picnics to different places, so not necessarily right at the club, but big social events to, you know, keep everyone together and, you know, just, keep the good times rolling.
Today we have a first, second, third and even fourth generations of Slovenian Australians. Given the situation today, you've said the objectives of the club have changed. How so?
The objectives still stand. However, we've had to refocus what we do, because we don't have as many immigrants coming out now. We do have some that we obviously welcome to the club, but not as many. And so it's about, we've had to refocus and say, okay, for the second, third, fourth generations, what are we doing to cater for them? We know how to cater for our first generation. Now we've got to turn our focus to these other generations, particularly the third and the fourth, because the second will help drive that. Yeah. So, you know, we started putting on some events, particularly focused for these generations. In last year, 2012, we held our first Summer Days event, which was held in February. And we did that after we held quite an intensive membership drive, which was basically me getting on the phone to everybody and telling them they had to sign up or else. Yes, using my powers of persuasion. But anyway, we signed up a whole lot of new members, and lo and behold, for Summer Days, they all turned up. Oh, and they turned up with their kids. And, you know, even young Slovenian immigrants that have come out turned up. And it was fantastic. You know, and there's always been this stigma of nobody wants to help, nobody, you know, we can't get anyone to do the kitchen and things like that. Well, after that day, people were coming up saying, if you want me to help, I'll do it. And it was just a breath of fresh air. It was amazing. So, as I said earlier, they are out there. It's just about tapping into them and getting them excited about the place. And it's great. They come up and, you know, especially the second generationers, they come up and the nostalgia hits them, and, you know, and then they see their kids having a good time, and, you know, they realise, hey, this isn't so bad. Yeah. So after the success of Summer Days, we held our first Oktoberfest last year. And again, such a sensational day, great turnout. And yeah, so we're looking forward. We had our second Summer Days already gone this year, and we're really looking forward to our Oktoberfest this year as well. So the events are there now to start those generations kicking on, and then we'll slowly add to them. It's a work in progress, and you know, when you're getting paid 60 minutes, when everyone's getting paid 60 minutes an hour, there's only so much we can do.
How have the types of activities that you offer now changed at the association? So you're saying that you're doing the festivals, the Summer Days and the Oktoberfest. Is there anything else that's...
Our main, we'd like having the festivals because it brings people up, and it's a chance for them to really, you know, feel the energy and get into it. And, you know, because we have kids, like the jumping castles. We make sure we cater for kids activities. We do the live entertainment. We make sure there's something for everybody. We may do some exhibiting of, you know, the club's history, just try to package it in. So especially for people that are coming for the first time, that they just get a feel for the place and what we're about. And the second, the other main priority is to just be opening the doors and providing some sort of value for membership. So that's why we've now started this year with every second Sunday we're open for lunch, as we are today. So giving our members just the opportunity to come up, you know, get a nice meal at a good RSL price, and just enjoy that social activity. So essentially, you know, and as I said to you earlier, sorry I didn't mention on camera, we have our hunters and bowlers. That's been ongoing for years. You know, they don't bowl as fast, but they're still good. They're better than me. So yeah, it's just about keeping the place open. It's simple. It's not rocket science. We don't want to overcomplicate things, but we just want to be there and know that people are welcome to come up at any time. Bring their friends.
Yeah. With the first generation, a likely event was a dance. Slovenian music bands, the tables and chairs, and Slovenian food.
Yes.
Do you think today's Slovenian Australians, younger generation, is looking for a high quality event to attend, or is it still the same?
We have definitely changed things there. So we may have a band playing, but it won't be strictly Slovenian songs. They might do a few Slovenian songs, but it'll be a mixture. We've had like acoustic duos playing. We've had and people love that, and we mix it up, and we make sure that the timing of it works as well. So say, for example, our first generationers, if they come to an event here, they might be here till about 8 o'clock or so. So say 4 till 8, there'll be the continental music, and following that, then there might be something, you know, off an iPod playlist.
Yeah.
So it's just catering to the crowd at the time and making sure that we're in tune with the right timing there. The food, I tell you, look, people actually don't mind coming up and having a taste, you know, of the traditional stuff. Barbecues are very popular here. Last year we even had coleslaw with mayonnaise, plus the one with the vinegar paste. So we do adapt. We like to sort of, you know, blend in a bit and cater for all tastes. But also we want to give people a taste of Slovenia when they're here. We don't. One of the things when we went through the changes of, you know, over the last 18 months, we all agreed as a group of members that we didn't want to lose the Slovenianness of the place. Yeah. We still wanted to keep that alive. That was really important to the group.
How much emphasis do you put on the quality of the presentation of an event?
A lot. You know, we want it to look good. Whenever we do have an event, there are big working bees conducted, and it just comes. I come from a background in hospitality, and presentation does count, especially when people are coming for the first time. We want it to look good, you know, and all of our members, especially, and you know, with the committee involved, they're very house proud, and I find that a lot with the first generation of all Slovenians. They're all very house proud, and I think that kind of carries on to their children as well. And yes, it is really important, and we want to make sure that we present ourselves well.
It can be said that the second generation is a lot different from the first generation in terms of lifestyle, education and outlook. How have you found this? And how do you structure events to appeal to the two different groups?
That is such a key issue. It really is. There are so much more activities now than there were, say, 40 years ago here in Australia. Mm-hmm. So for our children, we wouldn't come up here every week because there are sports activities. There are so many different things now available. I know that our children have a trampoline in the backyard. Years ago, who had a trampoline? You know, that's what things have changed. Now everybody's got one. Yeah. So you can imagine it means that, yes, we can't put too many events on. That's why we only run the two for the second, you know, and subsequent generations, to make sure that we're not overloading them. Yeah. You know, and that there's an expectation that you've got to come up every week. We don't want to make it a chore. We want to make it a really fun thing. So that's key. We don't overload. You know, we do 2 events per year. And that, of course, welcome to any other events that we hold. We have a lot of them come up, say, Mother's Day and Father's Day too, of course. They're very popular, and for St. Nicholas. Well, and then, as I was speaking earlier too, when we do hold an event, we make sure that whatever activity is scheduled on at an appropriate time. So, because we want to cater for all the generations, they're all age events. So it's kids' activities earlier on in the day, of course, and then the first generation are more sort of afternoon as well, and then things change for the evening. Yeah. So it works really well. It works well.
The first generation share a much stronger affiliation and emotional connection with Slovenia, as they were born and raised there, than the younger generation of Slovenian Australians. How do you think stronger emotional bonds can be established between the younger generations and their Slovenian ancestry?
I would say the best thing to do, it's expensive, but to go there. It is just, it's amazing. That's where you feel it. You know, we've got to remember that our parents, they've spent the majority of their lives here, and some of them don't even want to go back. They're over it. You know, and some of them that I have spoken to have no desire to go back. They left there. It was hard times. They left, you know, as refugees, and that part of their life is over. So they of course have wonderful things that they can tell us about their life in Slovenia, but you know what it's like with kids. You never listen to your parents. So
experience it yourself.
If you can experience it yourself, that's when it really touches your heart, and you go back to your mum and dad's village or where they lived, you know, and you see it firsthand, and it's just great. It's once in a lifetime stuff.
Yeah. Why do you think the participation rate of younger generation Slovenian Australians is lower than the first generation in the clubs and associations here?
That comes back to that original need for social bonding with the first generation. And with the second generation, they obviously have no need for that. So with the second generation, when we're marketing to them, it's all about just come up and get in touch with your heritage. It's more along those lines. And as I said, it's quite easy to bring them out of the woodwork. They are out there.
Do you think the younger generation Slovenian Australians have an inferiority complex about their Slovenian heritage, e.g. the cultural cringe?
Do you know, you bring back some memories, Cassandra, because I remember as a you know, sort of that awkward age when you're about to become a teenager, and you're at the shops, and you know your dad starts yelling out in Slovenia. And, you know, it was just terrible because nobody else was Slovenian. Everybody was Italian. And you wanted to just, at school, you just want to fit in. You don't want to be the unique one. So, yeah, I do recall that cultural cringe. I don't know if it's still around now. I would quite happily now yell out Slovenian in a shop. You get to an age where you don't care what you're saying. I know that one of my daughters is totally horrified that, you know, she's the only Slovenian kid at school. But my younger daughter, she thinks it's fantastic. She doesn't have an issue with it. So, look, all in all, I can't speak for everyone. I don't know how much it exists, but I see with, you know, some of my second generation friends, we're all really into it. We're loving it, you know.
I guess, why do you think they hold the view of the cultural cringe? Is it just because, I guess, in the way in Australia we're more of a minority than the Italians and the Greeks? And
well, from my personal experience, yes, being the minority, you know, and just wanting to fit in, I think that could have definitely, you know, been a factor.
Yeah. Is it because the prominent culture of Australia, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, has told them, bullied them in even some circumstances, that the Slovenian culture is inferior?
I know that, you know, when it's always difficult when you know, you get a group of sort of immigrants, you know, in times, you know, in Australia, and I know that you know, my dad told me that once he went to a dance or something, and you know, he's quite a handsome man, my dad. He's very tall, beautiful black hair, you know, really good looking, even if I may say so myself. He's not listening, is he?
You can teach him how to use YouTube.
And he said, you know, a girl would walk up to him, an Australian girl would walk up to him, and as soon as he'd open his mouth and the accent came out, that's it, she's off. Okay. So, you know, they had that, there was that racism. And then after they, you know, they were all settled, then the next group, and they were racist to them, you know, and it goes down the line. We keep being racist to the next group that come along. So, you know, they had to deal with that. I think that was difficult. And yeah, because once again they were the minority, perhaps that's where these clubs helped, you know, bringing them all together so they didn't feel so minor. Yeah.
Do you think that the younger generation of Slovenian Australians feel that the Slovenian culture is irrelevant to them?
It is irrelevant if they believe it. If they believe it's irrelevant, that's what's going to happen. So they've got to believe that it is relevant for them. And can't push that down someone's throat. You know, it's got to be in their heart. I think that many get worried that they don't know the language, but that's irrelevant. You don't need to know the language to have, you know, Slovenianness in you. As long as you've got Slovenia in your heart, you've got the heritage in your heart, that's what's important. Yep. Whether you know one word, 1,000 words in Slovenian, whatever, that's irrelevant. We still love you all.
One line of thinking is that the Slovenian culture is presented in Australia based on the traditional culture that we first came across with the first generations, Slovenian Australians 50 or 60 years ago. So the culture was centred around the folk music, and it might not be relevant as much to today's younger generations. What are your thoughts on this?
Definitely we live in time warp Slovenian, absolutely. I know when I went to Slovenia and I started speaking and they're like, what language are you speaking? You know, it was that really old style and we didn't know all the new words and things like that. So there's definitely a bit of time warp in there. With the cultural side of it, I think that, you know, Slovenians that come out here, the young ones, and see us doing our folk dancing and think, what are you? You know, but we like it. We really like it. We like to see our little kids, and they dress up, they do their dancing. It's a winner, you know, it brings the house down, and we like that. And the kids like it because they don't get to do that every day, you know, and they like dressing up and getting together as a group and doing that. So it works. It's good.
Oftentimes when Slovenian bands tour Australia, they're the folk bands. But the younger generations are not seen at these events. Why do you think this is the case?
I wonder if anyone asked them if they wanted to go. Once again, that comes back into tapping into younger people, younger generations. Look, personally, I've only recently seen one band from Slovenia that was Vagabundi, and we had them at our festival last year, so with the Council of Slovenian Associations of Victoria, which was held at Slovensko društvo Parnica. Now, they were fantastic. They were really entertaining, and the kids, there was a few kids around, they got into it, but once again, you know, I must say, I would put that back to are the younger generations actually being invited and engaged. Now, if they're going to be invited by, you know, first generation, it kind of doesn't work. And they've got to be invited by peers. So if they're a second, third generation committee members or people involved in inviting, that's where it's got to be driven from. It's like your parent. It's once again, it goes back to liking it to your parents telling you to go somewhere or do something.
How important is new media such as Facebook for you to get in touch with your members?
It's actually been really handy. We had a couple of our members, the girls from the Fistich family, set up a Facebook page, and now it's been running for a couple of years, and we've got over, I think, 350 members. Well, yeah, but it's like, and people from all over the world too. So it's great in terms of, you know, look, it's an add-on, you know, like it helps to get our messages out when we need to, and it's part of our, like, you know, campaign for when we want to get certain messages out, but definitely great for tapping into that third generation. Even the second, but the third, it's just awesome. You know, we have really kicked goals by having a Facebook presence. We recently got our website organised too, so that's interesting. We get a lot of, you know, we get the Slovenians looking on it in Slovenia and go, if I come out there, can you help me get a job? You know, and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. There's a lot of welfare questions that come through. So it's great to have a presence, and then when they do come out, we will say to them, you know, if you come and join the club or come up and feel a bit of Slovenianness, so that, you know, you're not feeling left out in that world on your own.
How do you and your committee go about determining what events and functions to offer to the various Slovenian generations?
The first, going back to like what we've been doing recently, that the first Summer Days event was actually born out of a subcommittee that was formed. So that was made up, I was in that subcommittee, and it was made up of some second and third generation members. And we got together and got the ball rolling on that one. And the rest of it, like the Oktoberfest has come about, again, it started from that subcommittee. So that's how the committee can't do everything. Yeah. We've realised. It's just, it is a lot of work in putting something like that together. It does get easier the more times you do it, but logistically there are still quite a few things to be put in place. And fortunately, now we do have people putting their hands up voluntarily without that's good. Me coming on going, you're doing it. We feel like we're on a good roll there.
Do you look at the events and activities presented in the wider Australian community and try to use that here in the association?
Absolutely. Being a mother of two young children, I see what attracts kids to events and different activities that we attend, and how to, tap into that generation. So we definitely are influenced by other activities in the larger community.
Yeah. In presenting the Slovenian culture, how important is the trade-off between something that is traditional versus more contemporary?
It comes into play. We've got to be really careful not to bore people. Yeah. It's supposed to be a happy social event for everybody. And you'd be surprised, but a lot of even first-generation Slovenians don't want to sit there and listen to a poem that goes for 20 minutes just because it's in the Slovenian language, believe me. They want to be entertained. That's our primary goal, to entertain, to have people socialising, having fun, and, with a touch of Slovenianness. Yeah.
Over the last few years, because of the financial crisis in Europe and Slovenia, there have been a number of new arrivals in Australia. Do these people come to your events? And why do you think that is?
Yes, they do, and I'm so happy. You know, it's just I love it that they come. You know, and you know they come because they've got some Slovenian friends, and here's an opportunity for them just to socialise. You know, in that environment, and I think they come for the Lashko pivo too.
Food always helps.
The Lashko, you know, you can't get it in very many places here in Australia. You can't get it down at the local pub.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a very, very big reason too.
How much focus do you put on attracting non-Slovenian functions to the association? So hiring your hall out and things like that to assist with the revenue.
You hit the nail on the head, Cassandra. Hiring our hall out pays our utilities. You know, we are a non-for-profit organisation, but there is still insurance and gas and electricity and the rest of it to pay. So, look, you know, if I had to be a purist, I wouldn't want to hire it out because, you know, sometimes they don't treat it like it's their own, or they might, but that's how they live at home too.
You don't want
so you know, it'd be great not to have to, but. You know, it's a part of reality that it does get hired out. Having said that, there are some fantastic people that have hired out our facilities, and we've been able to, you know, create new bonds within the local community. So I think that's important as well, that our local you know community gets to know us a bit more too, because I think that was one of the stigmas of the past, was that we're isolated, we're like a cult here, you know, none of the neighbours knew what was going on, but we're actually quite friendly. A couple of our neighbours are actually members. We've got other neighbours down the back there that help us with mowing the 16 acres of grass here. So we're a good little community, it's great.
Have you done, or are you planning to do, any modifications to the club rooms and the amenities to appeal to either your Slovenian members or the people hiring out the hall?
Look, there's definitely some things on the agenda that we would like to do. We have got some plans that have just, you know, been approved by committee that we're looking at. So we have a caretaker's little cottage, and we're actually looking at transforming that into a cultural cottage.
Okay.
So we currently have a gallery and a museum set up, but we'd actually like to incorporate and have everything on display and set out in this beautiful new cottage that we have, and also move our library into there. At the moment, our library has become a storage place for books. You know, it just doesn't get used. And so if we can create a better space for it, and look, you know, if people want to come in and peruse and have a look, we'd love them to do that. So that's one of our focuses now. And part of that too is that we're going to be starting Slovenian conversational classes for, you know, teenagers, adults, and Mrs. Draga Gelt will be running those for us, and with the help of Mrs. Anica Markic. They'll be once a month. So, you know, eventually, once we get this cultural cottage set up, we'd love to run the conversational classes in there, you know, so you can really immerse yourself in the environment.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. Now, with the other amenities, we've got a few little sort of, you know, little changes that we'd like to make. If I had, you know, $1 million, you know, unlimited budget.
Question.
I know, you know, I'd go through the place. But, you know, that isn't the case. So, you know, slowly. And there are things that we want to redevelop. We want to, you know, keep things moving forward. We've just put a big screen TV in the dining room, so, you know, people can come up and have lunch, and, you know, the footy will be on, you know, in the background. So it's, the small changes, and eventually, there's some, you know, there's other capital improvements. We did receive a grant about 18 months ago, and so we installed a fully functional, like, catering kitchen up on our main level. So that makes it better for hiring out, you know, the main hall area, because we have a fully functional kitchen downstairs as well. So there was, quite a bit of capital, you know, went into that, and also doing some, you know, all-access toilet facilities downstairs. So that was the latest, and might be a while before we can do something of that nature and that size again.
Okay. Next year, the association will be celebrating a major milestone of 60 years.
Yes.
what are you planning to do on this occasion, and any ideas of how you plan to celebrate?
Oh, look, the committee have spoken about this in our meetings, and we are looking to hold a festival it'll be over a weekend, and we're looking at the last weekend of November, so the Saturday and Sunday. I don't recall the date, something like the 28th or the 29th in 2014. I really believe this is a first generation event, and I really would like them to drive it, so it's all about trying to string together a subcommittee at the moment and see who's willing and able. But I really believe it's their thing. It's their celebration, and so it'll be big.
Yeah.
I know that. We had the Minister for Multicultural Affairs and Citizenship, Mr. Nicholas Kotsiras, come out here for our actual cutting of the ribbon for our renovations in February, and he pledged us a good $25,000 for this event.
Oh wow!
Which we still have to apply for, but certainly that will be spent. And really, though, it's about honouring our foundation members. They are the VIPs of this event, and that I really want that to be the primary focus. Of course, there'll be activities for everybody, but they are our VIPs on this event.
Lovely. Why do you think it is worth preserving the Slovenian presence in Australia?
We've got to preserve as many cultures as we can. That's what Australia is. It's such a cosmopolitan society. There's so many mixtures of all different types of people, and we deserve to keep it going too. We need to be proud and stand up and keep it going, because no one else is going to do it for us. So why not?
Yeah. How does the Slovenian Association Melbourne plan to stay relevant to the current generations in the future years?
Making sure that we cater, to that market. We can't push things down people's throats that are not relevant for them. So it's about making sure that the activities that we offer, the social activities or whatever activities we put together, that they fit our market. It's marketing 101.
Yeah. If a sponsorship was to suddenly offer the Slovenian Association Melbourne $1 million, what would you do with the money?
$1 million? Right. Where do I start? I could be here forever talking. I'd definitely be doing some remodelling. I'd love to see a beautiful decking out and having it almost a cafe style in our dining room, an outdoor decking so you could look out over the hills. Gosh, there'd be so much remodelling to do. A brand new playground, new sporting facilities. These might need a bit of an update.
They're nice and rustic, I like them.
They are rustic. That's a nice way of putting it, but they're rustic. And there would also be a lot of that money invested into just giving back to members, giving back, because that's what it's about. It's about increasing value in the membership. So you've joined, now this is what you get for it. So it's about, giving back as much as we can as well. But $1 million, gosh, you've got me thinking now, Cassandra. Do you have some money for me?
No. You get into the lottery, get a syndicate going. Frances Urbas-Johnson, thank you very much for the interview, and we wish you the best of luck for the Slovenian Association going forward.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. It's been so lovely to speak to you today. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to talk to you too.